Well, hello again. As I mentioned before, my name is Greg Di Loreto, and welcome to the Zen Martial Arts International Northwest 3rd Degree Black Belt promotion of Master James Swartwood. We're going to get started here in just a moment. I want to let you know a couple of things about this test. And as a student progresses, the tests start to look a little bit different, especially once you pass the black belt test. And now it's at a point where it's certainly still has a lot to do with skill and growth in the practice of being a martial artist, but it also has just as much to do with how you conduct yourself, not just in class and in martial arts settings, but outside of class, how you're contributing to the school and the martial arts as a whole, but also how you're contributing to your neighborhood, your family, your school, lots of other places. And so you'll hear about all of that throughout the test. But just to let you know, so it's got a skill aspect to it, but it's also got a kind of a conduct person aspect to it too, which, as all of you know, Master Swartwood has excelled in all of that. So that's why today is going to be just a fantastic celebration. It's a chance for us to see all the things that he is capable of and hear some great things about the things he's done outside of these settings too. So with that, we're going to get started, and Master Swartwood has a paper to start with that he's going to present, and so I will let him get to that. Thank you, Master Swartwood.
Thank you, Master Di Loreto. All right, for those with your cameras on, can you hear me right now? Nice, awesome, glad to hear it. Or see it, I should say, seeing all the thumbs up. Okay, so my paper is on elements and variants of martial arts styles. So the martial arts are made up of many different styles, each created with the elements that separate them from others. It can often be hard to know the difference between these styles without an understanding of what makes each one unique. I believe that the elements of each martial arts style can be classified into 4 categories: purpose, philosophy, focus, and method. The purpose of each martial arts style determines the core of that style and serves to reinforce the philosophy the style promotes. The philosophy of the style greatly influences the focus of that style, which in turn determines the techniques that the practitioners of this style will develop and use. We will examine each of these 4 categories and how they relate to a few of the most well-known styles today. The first category is purpose, the core of each martial arts style. When a style is formed, developed, and practiced, it is crafted for a specific purpose. Taekwondo, for example, was first practiced as a military training for troops in Korea. Over the years, Taekwondo has split into a few variant styles, some with the purpose of competing in the sport that it has become, and others with the purpose of maintaining tradition and learning how to defend oneself in a combative situation. Aikido, on the other hand, was developed by a person who liked the brutality of the jujitsu he had been taught and wanted to create a new system that used the techniques in a more gentle manner. Another martial arts style with a different purpose is Krav Maga, which was created for the Israeli Defense Force to inflict as much pain as fast as possible on the enemy. These styles, Taekwondo, Aikido, and Krav Maga, are only 3 examples of the 600 plus known styles that have been practiced over the years. The second category is philosophy, which oftentimes is related to the purpose of each style. For consistency, we will continue to examine the same 3 examples from before. Taekwondo was first used as military training, so the art style itself promotes philosophies of physical fitness and dominating your opponents with targeted strikes. Aikido, on the other hand, is a style made to be much more gentle on its practitioners. It promotes a philosophy of preserving yourself and your opponent as much as possible. Krav Maga differs from both, having the single goal of neutralizing the enemy. This is often achieved through extremely violent means. Krav Maga students are encouraged to avoid physical conflict as much as possible, but the style promotes the philosophy of brutally destroying your opponents should you get into a fight. The purpose and philosophies of each style will often attract some people and discourage others from joining, as is probably clear from the 3 examples I gave you. The third category, the focus of martial arts style, is influenced by the philosophies of each style. Taekwondo, a striking art which promotes the philosophies of good physical fitness and military intent, focuses greatly on the endurance of its practitioners and their ability to strike at enemies without dropping any equipment or weapons that they have in their hands. Aikido, which adheres to the philosophy of preservation, focuses on certain elements of good combat while ignoring many others to reduce the physical danger or pain that the martial arts generally includes for its practitioners. Krav Maga, on the other hand, focuses on more brutal sides of efficient combat. It places emphasis on developing pain tolerance as well. The fourth category is method, which refers to the techniques that the practitioners of each style develop and use. People often think that the techniques of each style are the main element that separates one style from another, but that is far from true. In reality, the techniques included in each style are themselves determined by the purpose, philosophy, and focus of the style. For example, Taekwondo, which focuses on the endurance of its practitioners, includes a lot of endurance drills. Since it also serves to teach its practitioners how to strike at their opponents without dropping things or letting the opponent get too close, it includes the combative techniques that Taekwondo includes mainly consists of kicks. Aikido, on the other hand, includes no strikes in its system and refuses to use any grappling technique that puts the opponent in dangerous positions. Instead, the techniques used are purposefully non-combative with the intent to train connection, relative positioning, general balance, and safety while falling. Krav Maga, a rather brutal style, has a lot of techniques in its system that consist mainly of strikes, joint locks, and joint breaks. There is often a lot of overlap in techniques across styles, even among the three examples we've been examining. For example, the setup for joint locks in Krav Maga often resemble techniques from Aikido. The few punches included in Taekwondo are the same punches that Krav Maga practitioners use. And some positioning techniques, such as angling and footwork, are shared by both Taekwondo and Aikido. Most of the time, you'll find it impossible to classify different styles by their method alone, due to all the overlapping techniques. If you watch a martial artist, the best you can do is make an educated guess about the style or styles that they have been trained in, based on the techniques you see them use. You can gather a lot more information from how they choose to use those techniques and the posture they maintain throughout. At Zen Martial Arts, we practice techniques from multiple styles. Each of the 9 recognized masters of the Zen Martial Arts have contributed to the system in their own unique ways, often pulling from their experience in the martial arts studies outside of the Zen Martial Arts system. Some of the most notable styles that have influenced our system are Taekwondo, Karate, and Judo from Grandmaster Yip, and Wing Chun and Eskrima from Grandmaster Stillwagon. Master Di Loreto incorporated what he learned from both Grandmasters into the belt system we have now. We have adjusted and added to it as we saw fit. However, the Zen martial arts, as taught by Master Di Loreto, is not just a collection of techniques. There is an overarching purpose to maintain a healthy environment and to encourage students to be their best selves in all that they do through their practices in the martial arts. Therefore, the philosophy that Zen martial arts strives to promote is one of encouragement and inclusivity. We focus on building each other up, allowing exploration and growth, both as practitioners and as people. Therefore, I would say what we practice is a style of its own, one that I am very proud of. I have found, though, that the Zen martial arts style alone is not able to serve all of my needs. When I started going to college and teaching people outside of this class, I realized that there are practices appropriate for this training and ones that are not. For example, I doubt the college would appreciate my students and me swinging around weapons on campus. It also probably is not a good idea to spar in the shared training spaces that the college provides, nor teach other college students strikes before they have the opportunity to learn control. Additionally, most of the college students I have taught so far are more interested in learning defense techniques than practicing Taekwondo forms. With this knowledge, I knew I would not only have to change my teaching style when teaching at college, but I would also have to find a different focus in my teaching, a different selection of techniques, and a specific order in which I would teach them. To achieve this, I created a new style that I teach my students. I call it Tarnu, which, as far as I know, has no particular meaning in any language. It draws a lot from what I teach in the Zen martial arts and what I have learned in my jujitsu training, but it is something new with its own purpose, philosophy, focus, and selection of techniques. Creating this style was enlightening and gave me insight into how and why other martial arts styles were developed. When practicing any martial art, it is problematic to not recognize the purpose of that style, and even more so for an instructor to teach that their style is something it is not. Not only will this taint your practices in that style, it will also cause you and others to misunderstand the intent of the techniques you practice. For example, an Aikido practitioner who claims that the style will be effective in a combat situation is misinformed, because such a claim neglects the fact that Aikido intentionally avoids many core elements of combat. A Taekwondo practitioner who claims that Taekwondo will work well in defense against a takedown, or a Krav Maga practitioner who claims that this style is designed to protect their opponents, is similarly misinformed about the nature of their respective styles. Likewise, if we as Zen martial artists claim that in this class we learn to beat up our enemies, we are not staying true to the Zen martial arts style and what we have learned. Nonetheless, there are many martial arts practitioners today that make claims about themselves or their styles that contradict the foundation of what they practice. Examples of martial arts styles being misunderstood by their practitioners are some of the martial arts masters in China that have been making news for their utter defeat in fights against MMA fighters and kickboxers. Most commonly, these practitioners are Tai Chi instructors that have convinced themselves and their students that the techniques and stances in their style are the pinnacle of combative skill. Some even claiming that they can use their chi to trip their opponents, block punches, and even knock out opponents without touching them. These confused masters are not well representing of the true purpose, philosophy, and focus that their techniques are supposed to display. Tai Chi is a style that is meant to cultivate the practitioner's breathing, control, and stability using slow movements, patterns, and stretches. It has much in common with yoga. It may resemble combative techniques at times, but that is not the purpose of the style. One of the most embarrassing defeats for the Chinese traditional martial arts was when a Wing Chun master named, I'm going to try and pronounce the name correctly, forgive me if it's wrong, Ding Hao, decided to challenge an MMA fighter named, again, I'll try my best, Xu Xiaodong, to prove that Wing Chun was a practical style. He considered himself to be one of the top 4 Wing Chun practitioners in China. This was a huge event that was broadcasted live. When the match started, though, it was very clear from the beginning that the Wing Chun master could do nothing. None of his punches had any power behind them, and he had no idea how to take a hit. The MMA fighter was just toying with the master, knocking him down and scaring him whenever he wished. The fight was declared a tie because the judges were too prideful to tarnish the image of Wing Chun. But the video is out there. It is very clear who won. Once again, this is not because the Wing Chun style is inferior in any way. It is just an indicator that the master had dismissed the roots of the style he practiced. Wing Chun was meant to enhance the ability and speed of Kung Fu practitioners, not to be the only style a martial artist ever trains in. It is important to be honest with yourself and others about the martial arts you practice. If you claim to be something you are not, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous position. This is especially true for the instructors of the martial arts. They need to be very clear about the purpose, philosophy, focus, and techniques that they teach each of their students. As a black belt, I need to make sure that I am solid in each of the styles I claim to represent and teach. Failing to do so not only hurts my own image, but it also hurts the image of the martial arts styles I claim to be proficient in. I would like to encourage everyone to be mindful about what they learn in the martial arts and consider the intent behind each practice. Only then will you truly understand the martial arts you study. Recently, the Chinese Wushu Association declared that all traditional Chinese martial artists should now refrain from calling themselves masters or claiming to be the head of any style. They also told Chinese martial arts practitioners to not participate in any staged public fights, knowing full well that the majority of these martial artists do not have any practical fighting experience. I hope that this will not only discourage these practitioners from trying to prove themselves or their style against real fighters, but that it will also encourage them to reevaluate their traditions and practices and to understand the core of what they do. Bruce Lee said something that has really stuck with me. It did not make much sense to me when I first heard it, but after progressing further in my martial arts journey, I believe I now have a better understanding. This is what he said. I do not believe in styles anymore. I do not believe that there is such a thing as a Chinese way of fighting or a Japanese way of fighting or whatever way of fighting. If human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, then we will have a different way of fighting. But we only have 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tend to just separate us because they have their own doctrines, and then those doctrines become the single truth. If you just say, well, here I am as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? If you do that, you won't create a style, because a style is just a crystallization or a process of continuing growth. End quote. It is clear to everyone interested in the martial arts that a multitude of different styles exist. So why would a martial arts practitioner like Bruce Lee say that they don't believe in styles, especially one with as much experience and skill as he had? In fact, Bruce Lee even created his own style called Jeet Kune Do. I can only speculate as one who has followed a very similar path in the martial arts as he had. I have had the opportunity to study under many instructors, 8 to be exact, in many different martial arts styles. I have found that each style is merely a unique perspective on the total actions that a human can perform. Staying true to their purpose, each style points its practitioners to becoming more stable and able in mind, body, and spirit. It is dangerous to get caught up in the mindset that styles are entirely separate, because at their core, they're all very much the same. No style is superior to one another. The best martial artists are the ones that stay true to the purpose, philosophy, focus, and method of their style. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Master Swartwood. Obviously a very thorough, very well thought out, very well put together paper and presentation. I think one of the things that is so enjoyable at this point is that it's not just something you're going to look up a bunch of stuff on the internet about and gather information from, which that's in there. But at this point, you have the experience to bring your own sort of story into it, right? And so even though you're talking about Bruce Lee and these other fighters and masters, you were able to bring yourself right into that mix, not as someone who is like standing way back trying to catch up to that group, but as someone who can say, I'm with this group, right? I've experienced these things and I'm carving away also. And so I think there's a very unique perspective that brings to it. Also a testimony to not just the work, but the maturity that you've experienced in your own practice. And so I thought it was a wonderful paper. I think any practitioner of the martial arts should, if they can get a hold of this content, I think, and have it with them as sort of notes and something to help them in their journey of especially being aware of the elements of style that you talked about, especially purpose and focus, philosophy, those aspects, which often get forgotten. As you said, I think that it would be very helpful to all of us as we practice. And so thank you very much for another contribution to the martial arts. And it's very exciting. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to some forms. And we have, as you are all well aware, we are in interesting times. And that's why we have this setup that we have where you're connecting with us via Zoom. What we have tried to do here is give a couple of different perspectives. So we've got something called main camera and something called side camera. And you'll be able to view Master Swartwood doing the forms that he's going to do from both of those. You can pin one of those to your desktop so you can only see one, or you can try to watch on the two, or you can switch back and forth. It's up to you. So with that, we're going to continue with forms. Master Swartwood is going to do one form from our system that is one of the previous forms that he did in his training. And then he's also got a personal form that he's going to show us, and he'll explain that before he does that. And so, again, very exciting. Thank you. And thank you, Master Swartwood.
All right, the first form I'm going to do is Palge. Yan Palge!
So that was outstanding, Master Swartwood. Really, really outstanding. One of the best expressions of that form that I've ever seen. In fact, I think that even your own adjustment of some of the pauses, right? And they weren't equal on every side, right? There's a lot of elements in our forms that are symmetrical. And one of the things I enjoyed is that some of the pauses were a little bit longer in one spot than in others. And I think that that reflects the reality of a situation. Your techniques were more than spot on. Your presence was even more strong than it has been before. Your key eyes are stronger. Your confidence is stronger. Your identity and who you are, all the things you talked about in your paper, the sense of who you are and your honest expression just has more strength and power to it than it has before. So that was, yeah, that was yeah, just awesome. Thank you.
All right, this next form I made, I'm calling it, it's in Mandarin. I'm trying to learn the pronunciation, but might have it wrong. It's Fei Bu. It means weary stance. And when I created this form, I realized at the core of it, I was feeling weary. It's hard doing martial arts in an online setting, and especially without that motivation to practice with other people and train hard and keep my endurance up. I was feeling like I was kind of rusty in a lot of what I was doing. And so this form was a way for me to still express myself from this position of weariness and to break through those boundaries. So you'll see, much like in Paul Gay, a lot of kind of slower parts and then speeding up as I wrestle with myself internally going through this form. At the very end, I'm actually going to throw myself in a very, not a very clean fashion, and I'm just gonna hit the floor, so please don't be worried about me. It will hurt a little bit, but I will be completely fine. So yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. When I made this form, I was standing in a corner, and I decided to keep that as one of the traits. So this form is set as if this side of the camera is the corner, and all my opponents are trying to push me into that corner. Yeah, they move.
Oh my goodness. Master Swartwood. Fantastic. Really, really fantastic. I'm going to try to keep this brief. Skills, phenomenal. Creativity, phenomenal. Wisdom in creating a form that's designed in a corner, to prepare yourself even mentally for that kind of situation. It's just wisdom, right? It's maturity and wisdom to think through what would this look like. And if you could see when he was doing those movements where he's like pulling something to the side, that was him pulling someone into the wall, right? And so just thinking through all the aspects of that. And then your creativity and the naming and the sense about the times we're in, but also that your own expression of the form, it gives more meaning to the name, because by the end I could tell you were tired, right? But you were still pushing and still, and it was super inspiring to see that sense of both weariness, but the will to keep going, right? And that will to keep going was pushing you further and further, and that the weariness, it wasn't overcoming you, right? And at some point it will, for all of us, right? Whether it's in a work situation or whatever, that weariness can get to us. But what you did right there was show like weary stance, but not beaten stance, right? And so that was super inspiring. And I loved, like you said, you threw yourself at the end, and it was this is my all. This is what I have left. And this is, yeah, it's phenomenal. Thank you so much. Okay, yes, so we're going to take a break for a couple of minutes. So if you want in your own spaces to grab beverage or something to eat or a little snack or something like that, that would be fine. We're going to take 3 to 4 minutes and give Master Swartwood a chance to take some deep breaths and get ready for his next portion, which will be a weapons demonstration. He has a couple of things he wants to show us with that. Then we're going to have some breaking, and then we're going to go into a time where we're going to share some acknowledgments of what Master Swartwood has done in some other settings, but also how he's helped promote the martial arts and the martial arts lifestyle in other settings too. So with that, I'm going to mute my stuff, and we'll be back in about 3-4 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to come on back, and we're going to start. We have, again, some weapons demonstrations. One of the aspects of our knee stick training is a stick takeaway set. So when someone strikes you with a stick, there are techniques we practice to try to disarm them. And Master Swartwood has been working on a new and some alternative ways of doing that. And so we'll let him showcase those now. Fantastic work again, Master Swartwood. Do you want to take a moment and sort of just in a general way, sort of explain some of the thinking behind some of the ideas you had and some of the ways you went about that?
All right, so that stick set was serving multiple purposes for me. It started as a way for me to think about how to do the normal takeaways in a less precise fashion. So you'll notice with like number one, instead of using leverage to take the stick out, I'm just bashing the hand. It's meant to be a quick strike that will really sting, hopefully not do permanent damage, but definitely gets the stick out of their hand. And as I progress through, it's me trying different things, especially from different art styles I've studied in. So my favorite one is probably number 11. So the strike comes down and I strike at the head first. I sweep my arm over, across, and then I take the stick and I drive it into the person's shoulder, rolling down their bicep. And right there is knocking them off balance in a way that I can then easily rotate them around me and go to the ground if I want. And that was derived from Evan, who was a very significant instructor for me, teaching me a lot of jujitsu, Aiki jujitsu and Budo Tonrin stuff. So that was a cool nod to him. And yeah, so just the whole thing is a collection of my joy and thoughts in the stick takeaways and the stick set. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. It's really well done. I actually love watching you and your dad do sticks together and weapons, because you have always, whether it's in your tests or in other spots, the two of you have a way of working together that I think highlights your relationship, but also the techniques really well. You have a good sense of moving together, but not in ways that you're like cheating or showing something that's fake. Like you trust each other enough to allow some really strong things to get in, and but you also know each other's control and spacing really well, which is, it's just really cool to see that, because I think it shows us the uniqueness and the care that you have in your relationship for one another. So thank you for doing that. Now, Master Swartwood has been working a lot on some staff techniques, specifically spins. And so I'll let him, if there's anything we need to talk about that, you can do that and then get to it.
All right, so staff spins is something that has always drawn me in. Ever since I first picked up a staff, my favorite thing to do with it is twirl around like this. And it wasn't until recently that I took the liberty to start messing around with that more and growing in my own skill, mainly through exploration. And so a lot of what I do with the staff is things that I developed, and then refined throughout the years. And as I grew as a practitioner, became more realistic in my movements and more efficient, putting less strain on my joints. And so pretty much everything I taught myself, I put onto my YouTube channel. So everything you'll see me do, you can learn how to do just by going to Master Swartwood on YouTube and walking through the 4 videos I posted. It's very cool stuff, a lot of fun. And one thing I found doing this is, while staff spinning is not something I'd ever do in a fight, it is a really great way for me to gain in proficiency with the staff and really any weapon. The stuff I've done with this staff, I can apply to nunchuck, sticks, sword, any of that. So I would like to share with you some of what I've been working on, just in a freestyle. I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I'll just go with the flow and display what I've been working on. Thank you.
Really good work, really good skill. And as you were doing that, one of the things that I thought about, like, we often talk about things like that, like you even mentioned, like, I don't think I'd ever use that in a fight. But the way you came out of some of those moves, if there is opportunity to create some kind of distraction, right? If you do have, for some reason, if there is an open space and you're not going to use it to try to run or get out of the space, creating some kind of confusing tempo for people to think about, and then the way, especially you came out of some of those strikes, just made me think about it differently. So again, great work, great work. We're going to move on to some breaking. Master Swartwood has 2 breaks that he's going to do. One is a power break and one is a speed break. The power break is going to be with a blackboard, and I believe it's going to be the first break we'll do. And the blackboard is the equivalent to 2.5 inches thick of wood. And then the blue board, the speed break, is the equivalent of was it 1.75? 1.25, so 1.25 inch. But that break is not going to rely on any opposing forces holding it. It's just going to be clean through. So we'll start with the power break, and then we'll go on to the speed break. There we go. And the elbows are small. Nice. Think on somewhere where there's not going to be pieces flying towards the so if I, yeah. There it is. Can I do a hand on that too? Yeah. All right, so great power, great speed, really well done on those breaks. For those of you who haven't seen breaking before, haven't experienced it, it requires a kind of whole different way of thinking and working and directing of power and focus, and especially on the speed breaks, those are very hard because you don't have, again, when I'm holding, there's hopefully a significant force that's keeping that board still to break through. But when you're doing a speed break, it is just a ton more on you. So so really, really, really good. We're going to shift gears now, and I'm going to talk through some of the things that Master Swartwood has done. And to do that, I'm far enough away that I can I can take this off. And I'll put it back on when we're done. This part of the test, again, is where we're going to just acknowledge the things that Master Swartwood has done that have both been contributing to the martial arts and his own growth, but also our school and really the city and the state and the world in general. Some of those include last year, last summer, I was gone for 2 months, and Master Swartwood not just kept the school going and taught, but really helped our school continue to move forward in his teaching and his leading during that time. And so that was critical to our school. He also, as you've heard him mention in his paper and in some other things he's been talking about, he studied outside of Zen martial arts and in other schools, and not just studied, but he instructed at the Seattle School of Aikido, and has practiced, I believe you mentioned 8 different styles altogether. And not just practiced them, but really gained a high level of proficiency in some of those and explored those. And those include Aikido, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, Budo Tanrin, and more. But that's one of the key things and as we look at these tests past the original, the first black belt, is what kinds of things are you learning and bringing into the system? What kinds of things are you discovering as you go journey in other schools and explore in other schools? Some other things, Master Swartwood revamped and redid our webpage, which has been awesome. It's a great way for our students to communicate and to get information. And he did a fantastic job of that. If you go to www.zmainw.com, you can take a look at it. It is really, really well done, and has helped us immensely, again, in terms of communicating and getting information to students. He's also created his own YouTube channel, where not only has he highlighted techniques that he's been working on and exploring, but attitudes within the martial arts, some of the things that often get left out as people are exploring the martial arts these days in terms of character development and those things. And so not only has it been cool to see him sort of develop and explore some of the technological things we can do with martial arts, but to continue to share and teach and mentor in ways that are helping create martial artists who aren't just bent on learning how to hurt people or anything like that, but really focusing on the whole person as a martial artist. And so that's been really exciting to see too. As he mentioned, he developed his own style. Tanru, is that correct? I'm always worried that I get the pronunciation wrong. At the University of Washington. And with that, it wasn't just that it was developing a new style, but it was developed looking at the needs and the stage in life of people he was going to be working with. And so, one, it shows a lot of wisdom in how can I best communicate and train people and help them to develop this sense of self-expression and honesty through the martial arts. But it was, just wisdom and care and insight into what's going to be most helpful for this group. And it came out of being a college student and understanding that world and being in contact with people. And so it wasn't just him saying, oh, I've got this all understood, I'm going to go in, but it grew out of time in that environment and with that group of people. And so I think it's a very cool way of showing and highlighting not only his skills, but also his sensitivity to people around him and being able to go in and learn from them in order to be able to help teach them in some ways. And so that was really cool. He also helped us get our Wing Chun system of strikes and blocks, particularly that we have. He helped us get those more accurate in terms of the language and the original intent of the moves. And so we renamed some things because that was the original, getting it back to the original language and the original names. And so it's a really good way, again, to highlight some of the things he talked about in his paper about paying attention to the original intent and paying attention to the philosophy and the purpose and the focus. And that's been really helpful for us, and I think honors that style and the people who created it, for us to go back and discover the original names and intent and honor that. And so that's another thing. A lot of those and many other things that the Master Swartwood has done to help not just maintain the level of our school, but to help us grow. The words that he and I like to use are words like exuberance and vitality of our school and of the martial arts in general, that he just brings a ton into that. But outside of that, Master Swartwood is an amazing part of the community that he's involved in, whether that be when he was living in the dorm at UW, and just hearing stories about how he connected to and cared for all the people around him in conversation and in hangout times, and in just being a presence there that was really helpful for a lot of people. Knowing how he conducted himself as a student there, and is continuing to do so in these remote times, and seeing and hearing about how he's doing that. Knowing as I get to engage and interact with his family, how he is a vital part of the life of the family. And it's, if you know the Swartwoods at all, you know that family is just super important. And so it's not surprising, but it's also very cool to see him and see how he continues to grow and think about and be part of the family. Hearing him talk about his friends and how he continues to care for his friends. So here's how I'm going to wrap this up. A while ago, Master Swartwood and I were talking, and this was part of his black belt test, his 1st degree, is he talked about, I'm going to be the kind of person who builds people up. And I just see that continually in every single thing that he does. Every person he engages with, and I hear about it, it just is who he is. And so that is, how do I say this? You, Master Swartwood, are not just everything I have hoped for in a black belt. You're so much more than that, right? You've gone beyond what I could ever have imagined and dreamed of when I first started this school. And I have been privileged and honored to work with, train, learn with you, and I can look forward to continuing that for a long time. So however we do this in Zoom, I think a big round of applause and hand waves and all that stuff for Master Swartwood and his many contributions. So thank you. Just readjusting my mask here. One of the things that I often have laughed about recently is that at the end of our tests, there's usually like a council. So it'll be Master Swartwood and some of the advanced belts and I will go off into a room. And my oldest daughter, Gianna, has started, when she thinks about that, she said she started singing the song from Hamilton of In the Room Where It Happened, which I just thought was very funny. But the great thing about right now is there is no room to go off into. We're here, and I alone right now make the decision about whether Master Swartwood or not is going to get this promotion. Which, if you've been part of our school, we have never had anyone fail a test. I think we do a good job of making sure people are ready. But Master Swartwood has been ready for this, I feel like, since he first started, right? His trajectory and the way he's been going continues to move in this direction. And so I am happy. I'm going to try to figure out a way to set this down, but still have you be able to hear us. So I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to come on to the other screen in just a second. Let's see if we can do this like this. So part of this is going to be a little bit of rewind also. Hopefully you can hear this. Can you hear this? Can you hear me at all? Okay. if you were part of Master Swartwood's 2nd degree black belt test, he did not get a certificate for that. And so the first part of this is that I have your certificate for your 2nd degree. I still have to write the date on there and still get a signature from Grandmaster yet, but we will do that. Yes. And then this is your certificate for your successful promotion to 3rd degree black belt. And couldn't be more happy and proud. And here is your new belt. So why don't you take that, try it on, and then let's see. Okay, so Master Swartwood is going to put his new belt on. This is an awesome part of this. And then he'll come back and show us that belt. But this is a huge day for our school and our system. And we're super excited and super proud, not just of Master Swartwood, certainly him, but all of our students who he has given time to, and they have shown in their own growth. And I think one of the best ways that we honor him is through our own work and perseverance in our studies and pursuit of what we often call honest expression in the martial arts. So, yeah, so we will just continue to sit and think and wonder at what he has done today, because it's pretty amazing. And then we will get to see this new belt and actually have him explain some of the characters and stuff that he chose to be embroidered on his belt. What's that? It is brand new. Brand new belts, sometimes they don't always go the directions you want them to, but in time it will. Okay. Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate the support and being able to see your faces as I demonstrate my stuff. So I'll cover what's on my belt. This is something that one of my good friends, my girlfriend Aletta, helped me do. She knows Mandarin. So she explained the meaning behind these, and I'll do my best to be accurate in my description. So this is actually something from our school. It's a nod to Master Di Loreto. It's humble warrior. So that's Master Di Loreto's motto, and something I have definitely inherited from him and learned a lot about from him and his example for me. So I wanted to always have something on me when practicing martial arts that reminds me of his example and who I really want to be as a martial artist. And then this is continuation of legacy. So as I progress through the martial arts and develop new things, make my new style, and train new students, I always want to remember the legacy that made me who I am and gave me the gift of what I teach to my students. So this is not just continuing the legacy of Master Di Loreto or my other 7 instructors. This is continuing the legacy of the entirety of the martial arts. I really want to embody what the martial arts is supposed to be as it's practiced this modern day, and how I'm treating my students with respect as they will continue the legacy I pass on to them as well. And then on the other side of my belt is more of my personal mottos. This top part is, I'm gonna ask one sec. I forget, I don't wanna mix these two up. Awesome. So glad I clarified, I got it wrong. So this top part is saying that I'm combining a lot of the different teachings I've been taught, so different styles and philosophies and techniques, and making it my own, and making my own style from all these pieces that I've been given. And then the bottom part is saying I've come this far, but there's already always more to do. There's always more growth, more to learn, more to invest into my students. And so that's going to be on my belt to remind me that there's always something I can be doing to continually progress the martial arts, myself, and my students. And that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so with that, that's a great spot for us to close with. Congratulations again, Master Swartwood, promoted to 3rd degree black belt. Very, very much perfect timing, ready for it. Yeah, and I think one of the things that you and I talked about was this is good to do right now. And I think hopefully we can continue with our practices to bring good things into this world, and especially in a time where some of us might be in weary stances. So thank you for your contributions, but thank you mostly for being you and sharing that with all of us. So thank you. And thank you all for being part of this today. You are a huge part of this day and making it really special and important. And so I want to thank you all for being here. If you have any questions or anything, you can ask Master Swartwood or your connections to the Swartwood family, and I'm sure they would love to share with you. So with that, thank you all for being here, and we will talk to you all, well, some of you, soon. Okay, thank you.